Hey everybody, you'll have to forgive me. I am going to do my best to get through this review of this Evangelion by Prime One Studios. Evangelion is an anime where this comes from. I'll have to do my best because I'm incredibly ill. Don't worry, I did test. I don't have COVID, although they did come back positive for pregnancy, which explains my belly, so. As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we are giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Today we're looking at Test Type 001. Josh Nizzi? I don't know how to pronounce it. It's his concept. And again, I said this is from Evangelion, so let me explain a little bit about that before we dive into the Extreme review. So Evangelion is a long-running anime, and I've only seen the first season, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I like the concept, but I'm having a lot of trouble getting into it. But essentially, if you've seen Pacific Rim, that's what it's like. You have these pilots that are compatible with these giant robots who protect the world because they fight these giant other angels or other creatures that come from elsewhere. And what they did with this one, this is actually a conceptual piece from the anime. So they took what's in the anime, and then Josh Nizzi, I bet you there could be a song about that. I told you, I'm in really rough shape right now. Did a little bit different take on the piece right here, and I think it looks incredible. So while I'm not a big fan of the anime, I had to get this piece because it's going to scale really well with this Attack on Titan piece by Figurama. Also another anime that's honestly scaled about the same because they're giants destroying buildings. Prime One Studios made this, and I love Prime One Studios. I think they're the best statue company out there. But they missed the mark on a lot of things on this piece. And don't get me wrong, they did a really good job as well. And we're going to talk about that in the Extreme review today. So let's dive right in. And before we do, I just got to let you know, this was a lot smaller than I thought it would be.
Hey, that's what she said.
All right, we're going to kick it off with concept, which is why I bought this piece. So again, these robots at the front here, that's what I call them, they are actually good. For the most part. I think a few turned evil later down the road. And Prime One Studio has a ton of different statues from this anime. However, this is my favorite one and the only one I'm going to be getting. But you have a destroyed city at the base. Not only is there a destroyed city, the buildings are destroyed. You see a fallen plane that looks kind of weird. We'll talk more about that later in paint and sculpt. And this giant robot is trudging through the city, and he is dragging one of those enemies. And again, he's dragging it through a sea of blood. You're going to see at the back. And they use both guns and traditional weapons like the knife he has here. And he's kind of just lumbering around, kind of how I walk. But he just looks absolutely badass with his purple and green armor shining. The portrait I've displayed now is kind of that conceptual take we were talking about, where he just looks even more evil and grotesque, even though, again, he is a good guy. But he defeated the monster enemy in the back that has multiple portraits, and I just love it. This is such a cool diorama, and I think Prime One Studios conceptually knocked it out of the park. It's a very, very cool piece, so I give the concept a 5 out of 5. Now in design, that's what we're going to dive into next. They blew it on every single level you can think of except one. The fact that it doesn't take up much room. So let's measure it, then we'll show the unboxing and assembly. 17 inches deep. A little over 14 inches wide. And the tallest part, his shoulder blade here, is under 27 inches. So it's very displayable, which I really appreciate. With one exception, which we'll talk about after the unboxing and assembly. One box, which is nice for a change from Prime One Studios. It did have 2 layers in the foam. Here's the first layer. And the second layer. Now lately, Prime One Studios instructions have been absolutely horrible. However, they do offer online videos, which really, really help. Unfortunately, I failed to watch it. All right, so you saw that shit show. You know, a lot of other collectors had problems. You have to get his hand to insert into this angel or this creature right here, yet he doesn't move much. So one of my fingers did break off. Thankfully, it was a clean break, so that's an easy repair. And technically, it was my fault, although it was a pain in the ass to get there. What I had to do was lean this guy as much as I could until I heard a breaking sound, and then I was able to insert the arm correctly. Always a good way to assemble a statue. Now, another negative I hinted to, because he's looking kind of down, you have to display him at a minimum of eye level or higher. Thankfully, I'm going to do that. If you want to see where he's displayed here in the office, check out the Extreme Channel Instagram, Facebook page, and TikTok. Now, another big issue they have, a lot of this stuff barely sits in here. It just kind of falls out, as you see. So, big miss there, absolutely. The Eva here doesn't key in all the way, which I think that creates some of the problems right here. I did have a broken piece of building, and I'm not sure where it goes. This was in the box. This right here is still really loose. I'm almost afraid when I move this, and most of it's pretty light other than the base, that some of it will fall apart. So really, really poor design by Prime 1 Studios. The only thing I give them credit for is I like how they compacted it. So there's two different portrait displays. This first one is the regular version. Only a few of these had it with it. Its mouth is closed, and it does have a light up feature, which is cool. Then the exclusive, what I have, has the mouth open and also has a light up feature. So because this wasn't an easy dio to do, I'm not going to give them a 1 out of 5, but it's definitely a 2 out of 5 on the design. Very, very poor. For the most part, though, paint and sculpt is really good. One or two areas that I don't like, but I really like what they did here. I will say most statues look better in person than they do on pictures. This one might be the exception. I think this looked a little bit better in the pictures, but let's check it out. So we're going to dive in with the thing that's bothering me most. This plane looks stupid. It just looks stupid. You only have half the plane. I absolutely hate it. I wish you could remove it, but there's a big keyhole right there. Plane just looks stupid. However, I do like on the bottom, you kind of have the base or the sub base down here kind of reminds me of the factory where they kept the robots at. And I know they're not robots, but I'm barely standing up right now, so just deal with it. But there's even a lot of detail on there, almost like a landing strip. And then you have the city, of course. I think the city looks great with the exception of the plane. You can see inside these industrial buildings, the floors that have fallen apart where it's shattered and broken. Everything from tanks on the top. You can tell this is in Japan. The building's splitting in half here. That's pretty cool. The rubble on the streets. And then the pool of blood back here. The blood back here looks pretty neat. I like how it's splashing up where they're dragging through it. And I think this is supposed to be a mix of blood and water. And then the creature back here, he looks great as well. I like the bone, outer bone shell that he has. So there's the two portraits soaked in some of the blood that's coming off him. But I like kind of this rock hard exterior. Has a good mix between like bone and rock. And then his black skin, there is some hints of blue in here. It's kind of hard to tell. This looks better in person than it does on camera, despite some of the things I'm saying in the review here. The camera's not really picking up that light. Here's some more shots of this building, just the outside of it destroyed. Looks very cool. Now, the main centerpiece here, like I said, I expected the purple to pop quite a bit more and the green. And maybe it would contrast too much if it was. But what I really like about it is you see some of the intricate workings, especially like in the joints here. And especially on the back of the piece. Look at some of this. I like that layering. It gives you this Transformers vibe. That's originally where I was going to display this, with my Transformer pieces, which is probably blasphemy to some people, but you see some vents in there. Some coils and hoses, a few gears, and I like the layering of the purple on the black and silver and gold. Just looks really cool. I wish these blades on the back, I did say that right, were a little more sharp, and that's more of a conceptual thing. Project Eva. So So I think they did a really nice job with him. I am disappointed in the exclusive portrait, though. It's really messy up here. Looked a lot more badass in the photos. And again, you got to get down below to kind of see it. So I think that's probably the biggest miss on this piece, but there's a lot of detail. So despite some of the flaws I'm talking about, I do give them a lot of props. And I am satisfied with it. And, you know, Brighton Road Studios rarely disappoints with this part of the review, the paint and sculpt, and I don't think that this is an exception. Despite some of the flaws, it's still done pretty well. But those are my thoughts. All right, sculpt. I love the intricate detail on the buildings. I love the robot itself. Like I said, the portrait is kind of what I'm disappointed with. But I still think it's a 4 out of 5, other than that portrait and a few of the minor areas we talked about. Paint, I really like it as well. It doesn't pop as much as I thought it would. Again, the plane and stuff down there, and that was more of a sculpt thing. I think the paint's also a 4 out of 5 on this piece. Brighton Road Studios usually delivers on their paint and sculpt. Now we're going to talk about value, and I don't think it's a very good value. So it retailed around $1,300, and they made 2,000 of these. There's two different versions. So the regular version, they made 600 of those, and I think it was $1,300. They just had that original portrait with the mouth closed. Then for 50 bucks more, they made 1,400 of the exclusive, this right here. Now, while there is a lot going on here and it's bigger than a typical like 1/4 scale statue, the fact that the design sucks, quite a few have broken parts from what I've seen on the posts. I know mine does now. With shipping prices nowadays, I think you're gonna have a hard time getting your money back. And they just came out with a new purple Evangelion statue that looks even better than this, or just as good as this. So I think the value is a 2 out of 5. I think people are going to have a hard time getting their money back, especially since this is a more limited audience and they made so many of these. Does this have the X factor? Is it a 5 out of 5 statue? Honestly, it's rare I say this. This didn't meet my expectations. It's still a very good statue. It's a very cool statue. I'm finally going to rank it actually a 4 out of 5. And it would probably be closer to a 3 out of the 5 with the design issues. But it does look like it's working now, which I think is fantastic. And just the way he looks, I think he's going to look awesome in that display next to Attack on Titan. So I'm a big fan of this piece, despite the many flaws that it has. And I think Brighton Road Studios just needs to improve it on their next projects. But throw in the comments below, what do you guys think? Am I really pregnant, or did the doctor get it wrong? And I asked you to comment because of this. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. You guys, I really appreciate it. I say that every time, but I mean it. Please drop me a like on the way out. It really helps the channel. Also, hit that subscribe button if you want to see stuff like this. But most of the channel is Marvel and comic and movie related, but there's still a lot of anime pieces coming. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon. Take care.